It's time to talk about my favorite series, if not my most loved series of all time, Berserk. It's a story that's moved me in ways no other piece of fiction has. I'd go so far as to say it's given me guidance in a way, especially when I didn't know where to get answers to the questions I was asking myself. I've gotten a majority of my friends and even some of my family into this series, and it's had an effect on them as well. I can't say that it's moved them like it's moved me, but I know they appreciate the story for what it's worth. What I'm going to do in this video is tie some themes I find important back to my own life and see if you have any relation to it as well. That being purpose, religion, and relationships, with each getting a dedicated video in the future to keep this video somewhat short. I'll do this by showing a handful of scenes that really reflected themselves in my personal experience and try to start a discussion in the comment section on how Berserk might have changed your life. I'm 26 years old now, and I feel as if I've had a real moment of self-examination, and I'm ready to put that out into the world. I'm going to be vulnerable and tell intimate and personal details about myself because I think everyone can relate to a scene or two when exploring everything strictly in the context of the story. But I haven't seen many people outside of a couple creators who show the influence it's made on their day-to-day. I think you'll understand what I mean the farther we get into this. Now be mindful that I will be trauma dumping you guys a lot throughout this video, because I just need an outlet to know that I put my feelings out there and I don't have to carry all the weight of some of these things inside anymore. So if you want something more related to the story and its scenes as a whole, this video probably isn't for you. I repeat, this is not an analysis on the story per se, but an analysis on how the story affected me and why I think most can regard it as being the greatest manga, if not the greatest story of all time. It's also being made under the assumption that most people who clicked on this have already seen, read, or at least heard of Berserk. If you haven't seen or read this awesome piece of work, please do yourself a favor and experience this. I mean, come on, bro. I'll be jealous because it'll be your first time. By the end of high school, I made tons of friends and relationships that meant a lot to me and still mean a lot to me to this day. However, I stayed in relationships that I knew I shouldn't have, and I say that because I knew I wasn't putting my energy into something that would make me feel complete. At the time, I thought the relationship itself was something to give me some sort of purpose or completion, but my spirit didn't align with that type of thinking. I enjoyed partying and having fun, but there comes a point in time where I had to let those things take a back seat to find out who I was and where I wanted to go. I was searching for answers, but I still ended up doing the same things I always did. I went to my comfort zone of escaping reality, and in that period of looking for escape, I found Berserk. It made me want to challenge myself after I could see a message hidden in between the scenes. So I ended up leaving my romantic relationships in particular to work on myself and build something that I could be proud of after witnessing Guts leave the Band of the Hawk. At that point, I realized just how strong my internal storms were. When it came to anime and manga, I wasn't looking too deep into storylines or character motivations because I was still in it just for the action and the fight scenes. But after I graduated high school, I needed more guidance to find my direction in the world. And it was disappointing to not have that many people around that I could have expressed my concerns to, so I learned from experience. I made my own choices and followed my own path. However, there was a lot that I was getting into trouble with. Women, drugs, addiction, police. Things started getting out of control, but my vision was clear. I was walking down the road I paved for myself, and I was okay with knowing that no one else made me do it. Berserk gave me a beam of light when I saw darkness, and I can admit to you all that I might be looking at this too hard or taking the story in too deep, but I'm not afraid to admit that it gave me courage to tackle my personal problems. We all are fighting demons that no stranger can see, and the worst part is that sometimes they win. In spite of that, as long as you can draw a breath, you have another chance and damn near another obligation to pick up your sword and fight them. So let's get into some scenes that stick out to me on a deeper level and might just have a deeper meaning for you too.
Have his own kingdom. He isn't royalty or a noble. He's not even a knight. He's nothing more than the leader of a mercenary band. And yet, the way he stated it, as if it were his right. What have I really been doing these past 4 years?
This was a question I found asking myself after I graduated because I was working jobs that didn't fulfill me at all, and I even tried getting money the wrong ways. But I was able to still have fun and fund my real passion of making music. But you know, I couldn't overcome this feeling that I was half-stepping when it came to my passion. I was doing something I didn't like to do at all, to do something that I enjoy a lot. I was 20 years old at that point, and I was just doing what I thought was right. As time went on, I began to feel an increasing urge to grow and leave things that made me feel comfortable and safe to pursue something to make me feel alive. Watching Guts move through life with so much uncertainty was relieving for me because it gave me strength to understand that I didn't need to have all the answers to walk. I just needed the guts to follow what was right in my heart. Wink, wink. Most of us go through life having an aspiration, a dream, a passion, a sacred internal treasure that no one can measure the value of but you. It's important to hold on to those things even if it hurts to keep holding on to them, because if you let them all slip away, misery and regret won't be far behind you. So for me, I'm choosing to follow my dreams wherever they take me, because that has given me something to live for when I was looking for validation outside of myself. I think Griffith sums this up pretty good, so I'll let him explain it.
Dreams breathe life into men and can cage them in suffering. Men live and die by their dreams, but long after they've been abandoned, they still smolder deep in men's hearts. Some see nothing more than life and death. They are dead, for they have no dreams.
This is highly, highly, highly important. Hold on to your dreams, man. They're all we really kind of have in this world if you really want to think about it. But I'm going to talk about something that can get in the way of that just a bit, if not a lot.
What am I doing here? In this miserable place. This isn't worth risking my life for. Am I fighting for Casca?
Now, we talked about this earlier, but we're going to dive in it for real now. If you ever had a job that you despised, couldn't stand, or even gave you a lot of anxiety, these questions can strike a chord inside of your soul, because I know goddamn well it did for me. Sometimes we make excuses and blame things on circumstances, but I think the relief of excuses is only temporary. On my own side of things, I chose jobs that were easy to get and didn't require much. They paid a survivable wage, and I used some of the money to pour into my dreams, but I was also spending most of it on things that didn't serve my end goal. And although I was happy with making progress, I hated the fact that I had to put on a uniform and go to work. I completely understand the fact that if I don't work, I don't eat. But working at or on something that doesn't satisfy you, I think can cause more stress than one may think. You may think, damn, I'm not doing what I feel like I should be doing. Or man, this sucks, but where would I go if I decide to leave? And I believe that's our mind telling us that we need to grow or change. Some people respond to that part of themselves. Some people even accept that as the truth but find it hard to act on. I believe it to be a fact that pain of staying the same is way worse than the pain of change. I'm not telling anyone to go out and make some drastic decision, but if what I'm saying is ringing true, there is still time for change. If you have a job that you don't like to take care of your family and seeing their happiness makes you content, don't throw it to the wind if you're not ready. I work with people who have kids, and when I talk to them, they don't like working, but they have people who depend on them, so it makes it bearable to a point.
Gaston doesn't think he's very suited for army life. His intention is to start a tailoring business with the money he's earned when this war is over. He's very good with his hands, though he may not look it. Nicole had proposed to a woman who refused him once. Apparently she didn't want to marry a common soldier, so he declared that he would get promoted as soon as possible so he could ask her again. That's why he tends to be reckless and overextends himself in battle. It seems to me that everybody stakes their lives in a lost cause.
What I'm saying is that if you feel a higher calling in your spirit, answer the call and go for it no matter how high the mountain looks from the bottom. If you find this relatable and you still have that shitty job you hate going to, come up with a solid plan to put that energy into something that can quench your thirst for purpose. My plan as of right now is to save up enough money to give me a grace period to focus on creating content and music. Before I was trying to do both, working out of necessity and working on my dreams. And in the next scene, I'm going to explain why this didn't work for me. I can hear some comments now saying, well, you can't fund a dream off of nothing. And that's true to a major degree. But like I said, I'll expound on that further.
Boy. Don't waste your life.
Now, boy, oh boy, this is going to be the longest part of this video, and I think it might even make some people upset, but everything I'm about to outline throughout this scene is 110% true in relation to me and what I'm about to talk about. It's not going to be the law for everyone, so just hold on. For all my smokers, get ready to listen or click off of the video because shit's about to get real. For a long time in my life, since I was 15, I've been a massive smoker. It all started in small quantities, you know, your regular 2 Gs that could last a week, and it evolved into something that you could only qualify as overconsumption. To the point where I was clearing an ounce a week, no problem. The only time I ever stopped smoking was when I was forced to, when I was put on probation at 19. And even then, I didn't let that stop me from ripping a fat blizzy and going through all the methods of faking drug tests to keep my lifestyle alive. It helped me be creative in the beginning and helped me build a friend group that I could appreciate. But over time, it grew into something that I could not control. I've experimented with a lot of other substances out there, but none of them had their teeth in me like cannabis did. The reason I'm going so hard on this is because cannabis made me okay with doing just enough to make me feel like I did something productive, made me okay with not challenging myself, made me okay with putting things off until the next day. And for 10 years, that's how it's been. Trust me, I've done a lot within those 10 years and they were fun times, but I know for an absolute French toast fact that I've been spending more time and money smoking and escaping my problems and running from my responsibilities than attacking my issues and changing my circumstances. Let me take a strong stance now and say that I don't think cannabis is bad for people, but I do think the negatives of it can magnify greatly over time with habitual use, especially when you know you need to be getting things done. Now, if for whatever reason you can use it at a high rate with minimal consequence, I not only commend you, but I respect your decision. But I don't think I wasted 10 years, but I definitely know I didn't use them to their absolute fullest potential. Because I prioritized that feeling of taking another hit and chilling with the guys and chasing chicks instead of walking in my purpose. So much so that I was fine with doing things I didn't like just to have money to fund that lifestyle. I even put cannabis over working on my passions, and it led to most of my work being average or inconsistent. This is not everyone's story when it comes to this type of thing, but it's mine. I want a better relationship with cannabis, and at some point I want to rediscover it as something I want to do instead of something I feel like I have to do. I have no problem with saying that I was addicted to cannabis because it needed to be addressed. Some people may have other addictions that cause more harm, but I don't believe that makes mine one that can be acceptable. I just don't want to be on my deathbed telling the people around me that I wish I would have done more, and I didn't, because I was putting more of an importance on something that didn't help me achieve what I thought I was capable of. Like I said, it was alright in the start, but it spiraled way out of line. I'm just now getting to a place where I can discover myself without the help of something external. When I make a longer video on purpose, I'm really gonna go deep on this, because for you, it may not be cannabis, it may be something else. But if there's any killers of dreams out there, or anything that could possibly waste your life, I think it's addiction and doubt.
But to tell you the truth, there was something I just couldn't get out of my head. Compared to what you're trying to do, me fighting 100 men means nothing. It has no purpose.
I really don't want to get into a battle of theology on this one, so I'll keep it brief. I was raised by my grandparents in the Christian church, and they laid a foundation that still owns a big part of who I am today. On top of that, they were hyper religious, so I was really shielded from the world in a sense, And I actually did my best to live by those words, but as I've gotten older and at the time of this video being made, I've had a major crisis of faith. With both of them having passed away between the last 5 years, I'm learning how things really work on this planet that I live on. The world I live in doesn't adhere to the rules of the book, and there's so many questions I have about it in general, and I think I have to come to my own conclusion by living and keeping my spiritual ears open. Griffith says one line that tears into my soul and resonates with me so much, it's insane.
It is evident that there exist great beings beyond human knowledge. I would say that it could be something like a god.
More like a demon.
Who knows? Is there a difference?
This is a powerful question that if you're not highly spiritual, if you don't subscribe to religion, it might just be a throwaway line that doesn't need a lot of attention. But if you do have a strong sense of faith, I myself find it to be a question that deserves an answer. Some people find religion and God to be good saviors for the conscious mind and a guideline on how to treat people with kindness, while others see it as a tool to have people under control. Some people find the world at large and the devil to be the negative arbiter that causes pain in our lives, while others find it to be one of the ways to get ahead in a world that can't be saved. However you want to slice it, I think this scene shows off Griffith's charisma at a high level and how a character can have an impact while being so enigmatic. I think the silence after the question isn't meant for Guts to answer it. I think it's for us, the audience.
Everyone is weak. That's why we cling to one another, to our dreams, to a word of comfort, to a strict command. I yearned for someone to be close to for so long.
Man, there was so much damage I hadn't healed from in my childhood that it affected how I was living my life, especially in forming relationships. I was raised in a single parent household, my mom was emotionally unavailable, and our bond was toxic. My dad and I had similar problems, but it was more so of a lack of a relationship than having one that was bad. As a kid, I was able to block these notions out to an extent, but I always knew the shadow was there. I struggle with issues that stem from this, but I'm doing something about it. When Guts is doing anything he can to gain Gambino's approval, and Gambino makes it almost impossible to get, it was like a mirror being held up to my inner child. I felt a connection to it. I saw the little me that wanted to see my mom smile, but I didn't know what I could do to make that happen. That's why Guts' childhood and the Lost Children arc in particular really hit home for me. I even became a people pleaser that got taken advantage of because of this. When I learned how to set boundaries and how to overcome my own problems, I made friends that made me feel like things weren't so bad, and I truly needed that. Looking back on my more intimate relationships with women, I always seemed to find people who were just as broken as I was. It was more of a trauma bond than someone I looked at as a partner to have a future with. Man, I know this shit sounds depressing as hell, but this is some real shit, man. As a 26-year-old man who's taking a comb over his life, I'm recognizing and understanding why I made the choices I made and where I'm deciding to go from here. Now is the time to put all these experiences to my benefit by taking the lessons out of the pain and learning to appreciate them for making me who I am. I want to dive deeper into the connection of the scenes in Berserk in my own life. There haven't been many stories that I constantly go back to that show me something different every time I consume it. I know I do a lot of stuff at you guys in this video, so I'm gonna cut it off. If you're going through something tough, keep strong and always look forward to the next sunrise. Find relief doing your best and following your heart. If you made it this far or enjoyed this real talk sesh, like, share, and subscribe for more anime and manga breakdowns and personal takes. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you on the flip.